Welcome to the Retiring Canada podcast, where our mission is to educate and empower you to make the most informed, rational, and productive financial decisions. Hosted by certified financial planner, author, and chartered investment manager Michael Isbister, you'll go behind the scenes to uncover the tips and strategies to help you invest smarter, optimize your retirement income, and reduce the amount of tax you pay. Michael is an investment advisor with Fundamental Wealth, a trade name of Harbourfront Wealth Management, an IROC dealer. And now, here's your host, Michael Isbister.
Hello everyone, and welcome again to the Retiring Canada podcast. In today's episode, I'm going to discuss the most hated word in personal finance, budgeting. Specifically, I'm going to chat about my own budget plight and what it taught me, why pre-retirees need to make a budget before they retire, the core budgeting principle to live by, 3 options to get the ball rolling, and lastly, a few action items for you to consider. Well, I hope everyone is enjoying their fall. Now, I don't know about you, but this is my favorite time of year. Moderate temperatures, falling leaves, hunting season, and some mighty fine seasonal beers. If you're a beer drinker, I have to recommend a seasonal beer from Rebellion Brewing Company called Cat's Got the Cream. Think of it like the adult version of pumpkin spice lattes that everyone raves about from Starbucks. Anyway, if you live in Saskatchewan or can track it down where you live, I highly recommend trying it out. Okay, so in today's episode, we're going to chat about the most hated word in personal finance, budget. I promise to keep this episode short as to not scare you off. Now, I know there are some of you out there, especially you engineering analytical types, that love a good spreadsheet. And hey, good for you, for the engineers. None of us are really surprised. But for the rest of you out there, and I'm going to totally make up a wild number here and say 90% either don't track a budget or haven't made one within the last 12 months. And hey, I'm not here to judge. I totally get it. Budgeting can be hard, especially for those who don't particularly love numbers. But at the end of the day, having a budget, sometimes referred to as cash flow management, is the foundation of setting financial goals. Without knowing where your money is going, how can you expect to know if you can save enough to retire? And if you're retired, how can you be certain you won't run out of money? In my own personal experience, I had a real come to Jesus moment when I was in my early 20s and I was spending way more money than I was actually making. Unsurprisingly, I started to rack up a credit card in the tune of around $8,000. And for me at this time was way out of my financial reality. For me, the turning point was when I printed off 6 months of bank and credit card statements. I spent about 2 hours going through the documents, highlighting my spending between green and red. Green representing all the things I needed to pay in order to function as a human. Things like groceries, my cell phone, rent, gas, insurance. In advisor speak, we call this non-discretionary spending because, well, you need this stuff to simply exist. And in red, I highlighted all the stuff that I wanted. Snowboard trips, golf, patio beers at Boston Pizza, you name it. To be honest, after seeing the amount of MasterCard's money I spent at Boston Pizza on pints and Bandera bread, pretty well fixed me from going to that place for good. No offense to BPs, we just had to go our separate ways. Going through this budget process, albeit painful, gave me a new lens to view my spending. I share this story only to tell you that at some point, most everyone has found themselves in a position where they need to take some ownership, make a budget, and deal with the realities of their spending. As much as I love numbers, I too don't want to stare at a spreadsheet every month and nickel and dime every transaction. However, I challenge you to do the same as I did. Print off your last 6 months of debit and credit card statements and highlight the non-discretionary expenses in green and the discretionary expenses in red. If the page looks like it's bleeding, add up all those numbers and see what you find out. Sometimes we are all aware there's an elephant in the room, this elephant being poor spending habits. And the truth is, we're just a bit scared to turn the light on. At the end of the day, if you can follow one core principle, which I will share with you shortly, you will never actually need to make a budget. But first, I'm going to discuss the importance of creating a budget if you are within the next 5 or 10 years or so to retirement. So if you fall within this category, I strongly encourage you to listen to one of my past episodes, 5 Years and Counting, Checklist for Retirees. In this episode, I discuss a few crucial expenses to review and consider as you near retirement. Things like paying down debt, renovations, new vehicles, vacations, and more. So I encourage you to give it a listen. We have helped many families retire with confidence, and what we have learned is that those first 5 to 7 years of retirement tend to be the most expensive. Compound this increase in expense with the fact that you're now moving into a stage of your life where you need to convert your investments into an income, and you can start to see how crucial a budget will be. Knowing how you spend your money leading up to and during the first few years of retirement can make all the difference between retirement success or failure. You can't control the markets. You can't control interest rates. You can't control inflation. You can't control what politicians do, but you can control what you spend. And all of this can be boiled down into one simple principle: spend less than you make. To take it a step further, spend less than you make and do something smart with the difference. This can include paying down debts, adding to savings, or continuing to invest. All right, so if I have at least moderately convinced you that you should do a quick budget update, here are 3 options for you to get the ball rolling. Option 1, if you prefer working with paper, do as I did and print off the last 6 months of your debit and credit card statements. Highlight those discretionary and non-discretionary expenses and be sure to think about those lump sum payments that might not show up. Add everything up and look at your income. How does your spending look against your income? Option 2, if you want to do this online, but you don't want to use a spreadsheet, I suggest you Google CRA Budget Planner. This is a really awesome tool that is very intuitive, easy to understand, and does all of the math for you. It will ask you a few upfront questions like your age, approximate income, and goals, and then guide you through a step-by-step budget. At the end, it will take your data and show you how you compare to other Canadians in a similar financial situation, provide suggestions on how you could address a budget surplus or deficit, and give you additional feedback on how to stay on track. Option 3 is for my Excel enthusiasts out there, a free resource from mymoneycoach.ca. This budget worksheet is interactive, user-friendly, and can be downloaded and saved to your computer. It provides helpful guidelines for how much you spend in each category, clear graphs, and better control of how you want to build your household spreadsheet. This option will also help you identify budgeting pitfalls and offer tips and solutions to fix them. Check out the show notes for the links to all of these resources. All right, that takes me to the end of today's episode. Short and sweet. Hope it wasn't too painful. So only 2 action items for you today. First, as I'm sure you can probably guess what I'm about to say, if you haven't reviewed a budget in the last 3 years, or you are retiring within the next 10 years, choose one of the options above, roll up your sleeves, maybe have a beer and a Bandera bread from Boston Pizza to dull the pain, and get to work. I promise you in the long run, this exercise will work wonders on your money mindset. And to be fair, based on how inflation and interest rates have been impacting our lives, this is really an important time to take this kind of thing seriously. Second action item, now that I know that you've completed the first, is to go for a walk and think about it. We all spend so much time staring at screens that it's a good idea to disconnect and be with your thoughts. Reflecting on where you are in life, whether it be with your spending, your relationships with your spouse or your kids, or what your personal and financial goals are. Turning the light on and taking an honest look of where you are, dealing with the realities of your life, making a plan and being consistent will help you get the most out of life. Okay, so that will do it for today's episode. For the links, resources, and how to get your complimentary one-page plan, please check out the show notes or visit retiringcanada.ca. While you're there, be sure to sign up for my weekly Retiring Canada newsletter. And if you've been enjoying the podcast, please consider leaving us a 5-star review. And hey, when it comes to your retirement, don't take chances. Make a plan so you can retire with confidence.
All comments are of a general nature and should not be relied upon as individual advice. The views and opinions expressed in this commentary may not necessarily reflect those of Harbourfront Wealth Management. While every attempt is made to ensure accuracy, facts and figures are not guaranteed. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing or tax advice. Please seek advice from your accountant regarding anything raised in the content of the podcast regarding your individual tax situation. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.